clearly not players of Simcity.
Simcity. Whenever I hear that, my inner LGR gets triggered. Simcity has done a pretty good job of seeping into my subconscious.
Now this intersection coming up here was designed quite exquisitely. It handles all the through traffic of Hollister with ease, as well as taking on additional traffic from the highway. I never have to stop longer than probably a minute or two at this intersection, so these guys have definitely played SimCity in the past.
I can't explain why it seeped into my subconscious so much. Maybe it was because I had very little control over my life at the time, and I thought, hey, if I have control over these hundreds of thousands of digital citizens, it will make up for the lack of control that I have in my current real life. That worked out rather well. For those who don't know or have not paid attention to gaming for 30 some odd years now, SimCity is short for Simulated City. Maxis did a great job of maintaining the core gameplay for all versions of SimCity, including that one. Anyway, the first SimCity came out for DOS, Windows. There was a port for the Amiga in 1989. And basically what you're in charge of is placing down utilities, transportation methods, providing civic services, and zoning areas for people to live and work. The maps on the computer version were randomly generated, while on the SNES version you got to pick. So if you ask me, the SNES version is the best SimCity there is, followed up closely by the DOS version. And the gameplay is exactly the same, but I like the art style on the SNES version a little better. I also like the fact that it even has music. The DOS version did not have music. The SNES version did. So we move on to 1993 with the release of SimCity 2000. That game was ported to pretty much every platform in existence. There was, you have the original DOS version, there's the Mac version, there's the SNES version, the PSX version, the Unix version, the version that came out on tape, there's the version that came out on punch cards, and there's a special mainframe version, there's also a network version, and from what I understand, they're working on a special version for UEFIs. That way you don't even have to boot an operating system to play the game. It's ridiculous. But they expanded on the aspects of the original SimCity by making zone densities for one, so now you get to pick whether you want houses, small shops, or small factories versus apartment buildings, giant office buildings and giant factories. You get, you get more selection of parks, you get water management, which was a big addition, and you get elevation. And let's not forget about that isometric viewpoint. A staple and a great addition to an already awesome game. SimCity 3000 came out in 1999 and improved the formula quite a bit. For one, we have
highly detailed sprites for buildings and cars and pedestrians.
We also have the addition of garbage disposal, where you have to plan for taking out the garbage. One of the key things missing in SimCity 2000. Also, I forgot to mention that SimCity 2000 had neighbors, but the only interaction you could have there was connecting a road to the edge of the map, whereas SimCity 3000, you can connect all manners of utilities to the edge of the map, and trade. This is a key aspect in getting money at the beginning of the game, because you usually overproduce utilities and have room for other people's garbage, like Sweden. So we move on to SimCity 4, and SimCity 4 did a lot of awesome things. They tweaked all the behind-the-scenes numbers so that buildings have, I guess, less of an impact for the same amount of space. It's the only thing I can call it versus SimCity 3000. Like, you have to make bigger zones now than you used to, I guess, is the only way I could really put it. They also made the highways work and look better. They overhauled transportation for sure, because that was a major thing with SimCity 3000. It turned into a major thing with SimCity 4, but luckily the community can step in and fix that. Also, another key improvement to SimCity 4 is
fixed 3D graphics.
That's right. SimCity 4 used 3D, but not in the way you'd want it to. Instead of opting for lower texture size and less detail on the buildings, they instead opted for this weird isometric angle. It is technically isometric, rendered in full 3D with gorgeous textures, and I gotta say, I'm playing City Skylines on my freaking quad, 6-core, 8700K, it's overclocked. I got the GTX 1080 Ti, it's a pretty ballin' system, and it still slows down. Whether that's a function of the game engine or, it leaves to be debated. But back to SimCity 4. The budgeting works a little differently too. I think, they went to a monthly budget instead of a yearly budget. But, who cares? Anyway, mainly SimCity 4 was focused on making it work on then more modern computers, and it still works today. Largely unmodified. Actually, there's a whole laundry list of things to do to make it run smoothly on a modern system. The crew over at Simtropolis made a launcher program that automatically pretty much puts everything in there so you don't have to rely on a shortcut. You just launch the launcher. Another fun thing about that launcher is it makes installing mods a heck of a lot easier, so if you want to play it on a modern system, that's the way to play it. So, we move on to 2007. SimCity DS comes out, a solid edition, basically SimCity 3000 for the Nintendo DS. We got some weird things going on with EA over there with in regards to SimCity. The next version of SimCity to come out, and it is technically a SimCity, it's called SimCity Societies. This is the first game in which they decided to deviate from traditional SimCity gameplay. Basically, the gameplay breaks down, instead of having control over governance and societal, like the major city societal things, it breaks down into like 6 core gameplay societal values. I didn't play this all this much, although I did like looking at it, because for, mid to late 2000s, it was a pretty game. It looked good. So SimCity Creator for the DS comes out a year later, and it basically functions as a portable version of, SimCity, but the same game for the Wii comes out. And, it's good. It was technically the first SimCity to have full 3D graphics. Like, you could spin the camera around, and, the road and, general track tool was funner to use because of the Wiimote. You get to move the Wiimote around while you build roads or something. I never had a Wii, so I didn't play it. Anyway, we are indeed going on to SimCity Social. To have a social city building game? Yeesh. And I guess now it's time to move on to You know, I'm going to save this for another video.